Vikings fans, what's going on? You're watching Vikings Now with Mitchell Renz here. And coming up, we're going to be getting into the latest news, rumors. If you like fantasy football, we're going to be talking about a player that's going to have a major breakout season. Before I tell you which player that is, you guys have been killing it in the comments. So on next video that I make, or the next video that you see here on this channel, whoever spams Skull the most down in the comments, you're getting a shout out. So the top 5 people that spam Skull the most on this video, you're going to get a future shout out. Irv Smith Jr., he's the player that could potentially be having a breakout season for the Minnesota Vikings. That is, according to Bleacher Report, because in a recent article that they released, it was titled, "The Best Kept Secret on Every NFL Roster." The player that was mentioned for Minnesota, Irv Smith, which doesn't really surprise me all that much because you know that he's a talented player. He missed last season due to an injury. There's targets up for grabs. And when I already see the early reports, and I get it, right? This is the time of the year that everyone is in the best shape of life, right? It's the best shape of life season. But the reports early on are that Smith has been impressing and that he looks really good at OTA so far. That's what I like to hear, not so much just from a futuristic standpoint, but from a is he actually healthy standpoint. So I do think that a huge breakout year could be coming for him. And when I say a huge breakout year, I don't want you guys to think that he's going to climb his way into a top 5 tight end role. No. I am saying, though, if you want a secret, I am targeting Irv Smith Jr. in every single one of my fantasy drafts, especially if you want to be somebody that takes a tight end a little bit later on. So this is what Bleacher Report had to say on Irv Smith. In 2022, Smith won't have to share looks in the passing game with Tyler Conklin, who recorded 61 receptions for 593 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. The former should finish with similar receiving numbers in the upcoming campaign. Bleacher Report also had this to say. He can challenge wideout KJ Osborne for a role as the number 3 pass-catching option behind wideouts Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. And I actually agree with that statement there. Now, sure, I'll say KJ Osborne is a more electric player with the ball in his hand, but just looking at the tight end room here and going back and looking at the tight end numbers from last season, Tyler Conklin saw 87 receptions. Last season, Tyler Conklin saw 87 targets. KJ Osborne saw 85 targets. So the tight end position saw 2 extra targets. If I'm telling y'all right now, no disrespect Johnny Munt, Irv Smith's going to get more targets than 87. Why? Because he is the clear-cut top tight end on this roster. So when you combine the fact that he's been impressing at OTAs, and then I am a big fan at looking at overall targets. So 87 for Tyler Conklin. I think everyone watching right now would say Irv Smith is an upgrade over Conklin. So even if he gets 87 targets, his numbers to me are going to be better. If he gets up near that 105 target range, then the numbers also will continue to climb. Wes Phillips, he had this to say on the Vikings tight end that could potentially break out. Just last week, I remember he ran a seam where he had to be bend inside versus cover 2. He really snuck his foot in the ground, and he ripped it in there. And I thought, wow, that's the Irv that I saw on tape from a couple of years ago right there. So he's progressing really, really well. So he misses last season, and you look at his numbers from 2019, 2020, when he was drafted out of Alabama, he was drafted to be the Kyle Rudolph replacement. I mean, it's as simple as that. So when you look from a target standpoint, if he's going to be able to catch 75% of his targets, and if he's going to be around that 12, 13 yards per catch mark, if he gets up around 100 targets, if he gets the exact same number as Conklin at 87, if he's able to bring in 60 grabs, you're looking at 700, 750 yards. I believe he's a better touchdown option. So I'm telling you right now, 60 catches, 750, 800 yards, 5 touchdowns for a tight end. That's pretty impressive. So the starting job is his. He needs to take advantage of it. And I think all the moves that Minnesota made this offseason, or lack thereof, because I know we've talked about that maybe the Vikings should go out and get a tight end, or there was a lot of rumors out there. Should Minnesota bring in somebody else? The fact that they haven't, I think, speaks volumes of how much they believe Irv Smith is going to do this season and in the future. So predict it, y'all. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you're thinking. Type that Y for yes or type that N for no. We're going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. Will Irv Smith break out this season? The next topic of discussion here on Vikings Now is around the quarterback position, Kellen Mond. And I always find it very interesting. Certain teams, the fan base falls in love with backup quarterbacks. And in this case, I would say the third stringer, but like I said, this is hype season, y'all. And Kellen Mond, apparently, according to reports, continues to get praise out of OTAs. He was drafted in the third round by Minnesota in the 2021 draft. No disrespect to Mond. I know he had a good college career. There are certain quarterbacks, when I look at them, I'm like, this is somebody who's going to be successful in college. I do not think that the athletic ability or passing ability is probably what I should say, translates over to the NFL. Here's the thing. We know he's not going to be competing with Kirk Cousins for the starting job. There is some debate, though. Could he get that next step? Could he be the second option over Sean Mannion? Wes Phillips had this to say about Kellen Mond. Kellen is very sharp. He has really picked up the offense very well. I don't know if you guys have seen him out here every day working with Gerard Johnson. Extra drill work, really working on his fundamentals. He's done a really nice job getting up to speed with our offense, our terminology. He's calling the plays really well in the huddle. His eyes are in the right spot. So we know, again, not going to start, but could potentially be a backup. One of my biggest knocks on Mond when he was first coming out of college is he's athletic, and a lot of times it was pressure, eyes would go down, use his athletic ability. In the NFL, you can't do that. So I do like the idea that he's putting in that extra time, putting in that extra work, because in order for him and in order for every quarterback to take that next step, it's a lot to learn as a rookie. You got to continue to make that work progress. You got to continue to put in the time in the hours to go forward. And if Mond is able to do that, he is clearly more athletic than Sean Mannion, but is he a better quarterback than Sean Mannion? Oh, well, how about this? I'm going to ask you guys right now, Kellen Mond or Mannion, if you had to pick a backup for Minnesota that puts you in the best position to win football games, who are you going to end up going with? Kellen Mond, type KM. Sean Mannion, go ahead and type SM. We continue to grow and grow and grow here on Vikings Now, and I appreciate everyone that was in the beginning of the show spamming Skull. I appreciate everyone that's made it this far in the video. I appreciate everyone that takes time out of their day to make a video or to watch our videos. So therefore, we put a lot of time and effort to make the videos. To make sure you never miss anything, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. Let's get to 5,000 subs. The next story here sounds like he should open up a pizza joint. It's Luiji Villain, the edge rusher from Minnesota, and good UDFA prospect coming from Wake Forest. There's been some people that have said that Villain should have gone in the draft. I agree with that. Now, I'm not saying he should have gone high, maybe a 6th or a 7th round pick, and sometimes for certain players that I would say are upper echelon UDFA players, it actually makes more sense for them to not get drafted. That way they can pick which team they want to be able to go to. And for Luigi, I do think he made the right decision. So, good pass rusher. He's going to be teaming up next to Daniil Hunter and Zadarius Smith. So, if he does end up making the 53-man roster, he might at least have some opportunities to potentially get on the field. Chris Thomason, he had this to say about Villain. Potential is out of this world. He definitely has a crazy high ceiling. The Vikings got a good one. He's going to play for a long time in the NFL, and he's going to do that at a high level. So very, very high remarks there on a UDFA. You don't usually see those type of remarks for a player who doesn't end up getting drafted. The reason why the high upside's there, he's long, he's lanky, he's athletic, He is a little bit of a raw prospect, but at this point, most rookies are pretty raw prospects. 34 tackles last season for the Demon Deacons, 9 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Luiji Villain, I'm pretty pumped to see what he ends up doing. Now, if you guys are pumped for Villain on the Vikings, I want you to spam 43. If you don't know why we're spamming 43, connect the 2 dots. It's his number. So if you're hyped to see what he's going to do, not only in just OTAs, not even to see the offseason reports, for UDFAs like him, I love the preseason. That's why I watch the preseason, because I do think you can get a real good estimate of what a type of player is going to be by what they showcase in the preseason. At least Sometimes it works out that way. The next thing coming up here is we're going to be looking at power rankings. And I love power rankings. I love being able to do it on Chat Sports where, you rank teams from 32, you go all the way down to 1. Peter King is actually one of the few people that when they say something, I listen to it. I respect Peter King. I think a lot of other people out there do as well. So when I saw him release his most up-to-date power rankings, I was like, all right, where are the Vikings located at? So the top 10, you got Buffalo. This was a little bit high for me for the Chargers and Chiefs. Rams, Packers, Bucks, Bengals, Ravens, Eagles, 49ers. Some of you are like, wait a minute. Vikings didn't make the top 10? Well, they just barely cracked the top 20. And I understand what this show is, and I know there's going to be a lot of Vikings fans that are going to get mad at me for what I'm about to say, but my job here at Chat Sports is to keep it 100, and that's always what I try to do. I will never come up on a show and tell you something that I don't believe is true. So the 19 ranking, it does seem about right to me. The 20 ranking for the Detroit Lions, that's a little bit high for me there, Peter. So when you look at the Vikings from top to bottom, I think we believe that the offense is solid. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Is he elite? That still remains to be seen. If you have a breakout year from Irv Smith Jr., if Danielle Hunter can stay healthy, if you're able to replace some of those pieces that you had on defense, if your secondary cornerback play can get better, then sure, there is room for growth. But you also have to be able to look at the roster and be like, 19 is average. I can also say from 19 to 10 on that list, I could make an argument for every team to be switched. That's why the NFL's fun. It's competitive. And the competition is going to be very tough this year, not only for Minnesota, but for almost every NFL team out there. I'm excited to see where they end up finishing. I know a lot of y'all are hoping they end up finishing, though, a little bit higher than 19. So, guys, I'm getting ready to wrap up this show. And before I go, rank the Vikings. If you don't like my opinion, if you don't like Peter King's opinion, here's your chance to yell at me, yell at him. Rank the Vikings in the NFL from 1 to 32. 1, you think they're the best team in the NFL. 19, if you agree with Peter King. 32, if you think they're the worst. I had them in my initial rankings at number 17, so we were kind of close in that regard. But I can make an argument for them being higher. Can also make the argument for them being actually a little bit lower. So shout out to all the real ones that made it this far. Remember, type that skull down in the comments. Whoever has the top 5 people who end up commenting skull, you're going to get a shout out on a future Vikings Now video.